Hello Pisces, and welcome to your monthly video horoscope for the month of December 2014. Before we talk about the month's astrology, I'd like to wish you a very happy holiday season and a very prosperous new year, regardless of how or if you celebrate this holiday season. Also, before we start talking about the astrology, but this is actually, I guess, part of talking about the astrology, I would like to stress that if you know your rising sign, it's important to watch these videos for your rising sign as well as your sun sign. If you don't know your rising sign, I do have a free chart calculator that is available on my website, and you can find it through the astrological services link above. Also, I have included that very same link further down the page under the description area. So if you go to that link, you can enter your birth date and your birth time. You will need to know your time of birth in order to calculate your rising sign. What you're looking for when it calculates the chart is your ascendant. That is the same thing as your rising sign. And once you find out what that is, you can come back here and you can watch these videos for your ascendant as well as your sun sign. If you don't know your birth time, please just continue watching for your sun sign as well. It's just that you'll likely find a higher degree of accuracy from watching for your rising sign. So Pisces, are you ready for your song for the month? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you listen to me sing or wail or sound like a cat that's in misery out the window. But the song is I Can See Clearly Now the Rain Is Gone. Remember that song? My favorite version used to be the Jimmy Cliff version. But I suggest you download it this month because there's some words of wisdom for you in that song. And mainly along the lines of if you can see the obstacles that are in your way, then you stand a greater chance of being able to surmount them and overcome them. If you don't, many times you're just stumbling around in the dark. And we both know that you don't want to stumble around in the dark anymore, right? Big news on the horizon for you this month. A very powerful aspect going on between Pluto and Uranus, the next to the last of these aspects that has been going on since 2011, and there will be one more exact aspect in March. But this month, these two planets become exact in their angle around the 15th of the month. Let's talk about the aspects for the month and how they are going to impact you. You know, quite often, because of the introduction of Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in astrology, people have forgotten that there were rulers of specific signs before those planets were discovered. And in addition to Neptune, your ruling planet, Jupiter is also a co-ruler of your sign. So we're going to focus on some of the Jupiter aspects that are there this month, in addition to the Neptune aspects, plus a little bit more. And we're going to start the month off by talking about a particular aspect which happened on the 8th, which will likely be after you're listening to this video. That day would have gone past already. And this relates to the fact that the Sun and Mercury will be traveling in close proximity to each other over the entirety of the month. And they become exact in their conjunction on the 8th. And the Sun and Mercury will be in a section of Sagittarius that's called Jyeshtha. Jyeshtha translates to mean the eldest. It offers a profound level of insight and perspective. It's governed over by Mercury, and Mercury will be occupying that section of the sky at the time of the exactitude of this angle. And whenever you have the Sun, the light bearer, and Mercury, the planet of the mind, conjuncting each other, there is a propensity for higher levels of insight than were previously available. Coinciding with this event is the fact that Jupiter will be stationing before it shifts to its retrograde motion for the next several months. By the time you're listening to this, Jupiter probably already is retrograde, but the outer planets like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, when they station, it's a day or so, or sometimes even a few days either side of the event, because they take a good amount of time to pick up speed. Now, when Jupiter is stationing, which basically involves the apparent illusion of it sitting still in the sky, then it creates a high degree of receptivity. And this is coinciding with this conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. Now, this is taking place in the areas of your chart that relate to work, the amount of sweat and labor that you put into something that hopefully is important to you. Also relates to stress. Quite often that stress results just because we're not aligned with the proper path for ourselves, and we have to encounter a little bit of an obstacle in order to rebalance and to come back to center and take the steps that are appropriate to make the changes. So sixth house energy, even though it creates stress and some difficulty, it ultimately creates a shift and a movement in the right direction. And Sun and Mercury, when they're forming this conjunction, will be in the area of your chart, which is called the 10th house. Now, ordinarily for people, they know their 10th house relates to their career or their work. I like to use the word vocation a little bit more because quite often some of us are here fulfilling the role of Jobs rather than jobs, if you follow what I mean. Job was a biblical figure who encountered a lot of suffering. So we end up in positions that we're not really that happy about rather than falling into our chosen profession. But there is another meaning that I want to touch on here, which is those things which are of most importance to you. The 10th house also relates to karma, what we're here to do, how we're here to deal with, working through certain things in our life. And this Sun-Mercury conjunction offers a profound level of insight into that area of your life. And at the same time that Jupiter is stationing, it gives you an idea, albeit perhaps a humbling idea at first, of the steps that you need to take to begin to move some long-term blockages out of your life and create the forward motion that's necessary for you to finally be able to succeed and move down the path that you're meant to be on in this lifetime. If that's a career or a job, then hey, more power to you. But what it's really about is you fulfilling your role here, but being willing to do the hard work in order to overcome the obstacles like we were talking about at the beginning in order to make this happen. Now, this is followed a few days later by the Sun and Mercury both forming a harmonious angle with Jupiter. They will both be forming an angle of 120 degrees, which is known as a trine in astrology. Now, by that time, Mercury will form its alignment with Jupiter exactly on the 12th, and the Sun will form its alignment with Jupiter exactly on the 14th. By the time that these two planets are forming this alignment, they will have shifted into a new section of Sagittarius that's called Mula. Let's talk about Mula a little bit. Mula is very passionate, driven energy. It sometimes doesn't pay attention to the things that it might need to be more aware of. Instead, it's like a laser-like focus that goes, I'm going to achieve and attain this at all possible costs. Now, the section of Mula that both Mercury and the Sun, I should say, will be in at the time of their aspect with Jupiter, offers a more balanced insight, less of a likelihood of hitting a stumbling block. That probably happened a few days previous to that, but more of a widening perspective that helps you to understand how best to proceed and how to apply diligence and effort in a direction while also maintaining awareness in order to manifest the goals that you're desiring to achieve. Now, talking about achieving goals, you've got a lot of planets that are going to be shifting into your 11th house. The 11th house deals with aspirations, goals, our hopes, plans, dreams for the future. Now, Venus will have recently shifted into Capricorn, which is your 11th house. It's the 11th house for Pisces, the natural 11th house. And it will be in a section of Capricorn that's called Purva Ashadha. Purva Ashadha tends to strip away the layers of the ego. Sometimes this can be a bit of a humbling experience. It will make us be honest with ourselves, regardless of whether we want to face certain things or not. But what it does when we do so is it tends to invigorate us, and it gives us a lot of energy to attain things or approach things with a renewed and refreshed vigor. This Venus on this date, pardon me, Venus will be forming, and the date we're talking about is the 14th, kind of stumbling over myself there. Venus will be forming a harmonious angle with Neptune, which is in your sign. You know, Pisces, you're really, really fortunate to have Neptune in your sign. It only happens every 150 years, and you've got it there for a good solid 15 years. Now, Neptune is in a section of Pisces that's called Shatabisha. Now, there's some clarification that's associated with this aspect, because Shatabisha will tend to create a lot of confusion, difficulty, uncertainty in your life. But when you apply your effort towards understanding that uncertainty, something begins to reveal itself on a deeper level. It's like a healing crisis that needs to take place so that you can more deeply understand what's gone wrong and apply your effort towards correcting it. Now, Venus in Purva Ashadha is going to make you take a deep look at things, a more honest look at things. And it's going to say you need a more honest approach for the future. Be true to yourself of what you really want to achieve and the things that you're really wanting to do in your life, and begin to apply your effort in those directions. Begin to apply your effort towards overcoming the obstacles which you may see as being in the way of your path, and be willing to work a little bit harder in doing so. Now, on the 15th, we've got the exact angle I was talking about earlier between Uranus and Pluto. They will once again form this alignment in March before they move on for quite a long time to come. We won't have to encounter this again. If you live to encounter it again, then you're likely pretty young, because it'll be quite a long time before it happens. I'd have to calculate and give you an idea of exactly the amount of time that it would take, because each planet, Pluto, basically moves, it would take at least 84 years. It would take you another 84 years. There we go. I just figured it out in my head. Now, on the 15th, as I was saying, Uranus squares Pluto, the next to the last of these exactitudes. And it's followed on the 20th by Venus squaring Uranus and Venus conjuncting Pluto. So Venus, in actuality, is going to act as a catalyst for this aspect. And this occurs at the same time that Mercury will be forming the same harmonious angle with your ruler Neptune that Venus was forming, I should say, a few days prior. It's about relating to yourself in a different manner, setting yourself free from a difficult set of circumstances, no longer sitting in a state of limbo, taking the steps appropriate in order to create the changes. And this is likely going to happen in a very revolutionary manner, because whenever we're dealing with Uranus, we're dealing with the planet of revolution. And the Pluto side of things is going to give you a different outlook for the future. More along the lines of what we were talking about earlier, a more honest outlook, because Pluto is also in Purva Ashadha. And at the time of the Venus-Pluto conjunction, both planets will be in Purva Ashadha, which is actually ruled by Venus. So that makes it even more powerful, right? So the ability to put more effort, energy, courage into achieving your goals, and doing so with a new outlook that actually stands a chance of creating quite a shift in your life. There can be some challenges around this time involving finances, but it's happening so that you begin to put yourself on a more even footing in terms of finances and approaching things in a manner that's actually going to lead to a greater state of fulfillment in such things in the future. On the 21st, another very powerful aspect. It's quite a Uranian month this month. We've got Mars forming a harmonious angle with Uranus. Now, what makes this more powerful is the fact that Mars is in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So in essence, they're exchanging signs. It's called mutual exchange. Now, add to this the fact that on that day, Uranus is also going to be stationing, only it's going to be shifting towards direct motion, whereas Jupiter was moving towards retrograde motion. Uranus is the planet of the random and the revolutionary. A lot of unexpected things usually tend to happen when Uranus is in the equation. While Uranus is retrograde on the personal level, it tends to make you overturn the status quo internally, overcome methods of behavior that you've become accustomed to. And then what happens when Uranus shifts towards direct motion is those changes begin to occur in your life externally. A lot of what this relates to for you, Pisces, is along the lines of self-esteem, self-trust, and also self-liberation, again, as I was saying, from a difficult set of circumstances. Uranus has been in a section of the sky that's called Revati, which marks an in-between period. The last phase of existence is over with. The new phase of existence is getting ready to begin, but it hasn't started yet. And what's happening is the stage is being set for that to happen. Now, everything isn't going to change all at once, but you'll likely feel amazed at how quickly things do begin to change. So that gives you an idea of how massive the level of changes that are on your way really are. So again, this takes place on the 21st, and Mars will be in a section of the sky that's called Dhanishta. That's about prospering by truly being yourself, marching to the beat of your own drum. And in doing so, you may encounter a little bit of tension through doing so, but actually the very fact that you are deciding to stand up courageously where perhaps you haven't been doing so will provide you with the movement that you need in the future. So it takes a little bit of effort to overcome this, but it is something ultimately which is exceptionally positive. On the 23rd, a new moon in your 11th house, setting the tone for the future for you, how you want to approach things, where you want to take things, and giving you the energy to put your effort towards that over the course of the following month. Saturn, for the first time in 2 years on the 23rd, is going to be shifting into a new sign. It's going to move into Sagittarius. This again is your 10th house. So getting your career in order, if things begin to hit a little bit of resistance at work, it means that there's a need for some changes, or there's a need to be clear about what it is that you really want to do. And Saturn, for the beginning of its transit of Sagittarius, is going to be in a section of Sagittarius that's called Anuradha. And on one level, that's about recognizing your potential, living in your potential, and creating a balanced lifestyle that allows you to grow and change at the same time that you're putting the effort towards your chosen path. There's going to be enough time for downtime is probably the easiest way to say it, because that downtime is what will allow you the proper ability to integrate. So a balance between giving of yourself and giving to yourself. That's probably the easiest way to say that. On the 25th, Mercury will once again trigger this Uranus-Pluto square. Again, a deeper level of going, okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, I'm going to relate to myself in a different manner. It may change my relationships in general. There may be some emotional turbulence as a result, but hey, if you don't go in, then you don't get out the other side. And it's important that I do so. And this is followed on the tail end of this aspect between Mercury and Pluto and Mercury and Uranus. You'll have the Sun going over the same alignment that both Mercury and Venus had to Neptune. So clarification, deeper levels of self-understanding, deeper levels of where you want to take things from this moment onwards, and the ability to set the wheels in motion on an even deeper level than you have had the opportunity to do so already. Now, there's so much more to your personal astrology than just your sun sign or your rising sign, obviously. There are several other planets that we have to take into consideration, and also their positions in your chart. So if you would like a little bit more of an in-depth look at what's going on for you this month, or indeed for the year to come, I suggest that you take a look at my astrological services page, where I have a vast range of astrological services. In addition, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page yet, you might consider doing so if you'd like to receive regular updates every time a video is released. That's going to do it for your monthly video horoscope for the month of December, Pisces. Wishing you a very happy holiday season and a prosperous new year. And please do take very good care of yourself.